episode 26 here of the Bullpen. I guess first things first, how you guys doing? You have a good weekend and everything? I know we got a big week here. Hopefully the weather starts getting a little bit better. I know it's kind of a little rainy down here in Bloomington and cold today, but I think it looks like the rest of the week should be sunny and 70s, 80s. So how's everything going for you guys?
Well, I'm glad you talked about the weather because I was not going to talk about the weather anymore. I've talked about it last two episodes. Feel like I've just been jinxing it. So glad you can now take that over. Maybe you'll bring the good luck. But I had a good weekend, Gav. Don't know if any of you guys care, but I went and saw the new Marvel movie Saturday night. It was awesome. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I good weekend as well. I missed that Marvel movie. I'll have to put that on my list.
The kids would be all about
playoff
it.
hockey, and I think that's the best thing going right now. And all it makes me want is the Blackhawks to be good again. Because there is absolutely nothing like playoff hockey. I don't know if you guys saw the 2 Game 7s Saturday night, then last night. Epic games. Dallas with the late comeback. They were down 2-0 in the third, and then St. Louis up 3-1 with like 3 minutes left in the third. And then Winnipeg ends up tying it with 1 point some seconds left, and then wins it in double overtime. But the effort that those guys give and just the skill level, it's unbelievable. It's one of my favorite things to watch. So getting some really good playoff action over the weekend.
Or go ahead, Pete, if you have anything.
No, I can't help but agree. Like the Blackhawks, when they're good, I feel like I haven't really watched much hockey in the past few years, but hockey when the Hawks are good is undefeated. And I also feel like the debate of what's the hardest sport, I feel like hockey's got to be way up there. You're literally on knives on ice. What does not make that the hardest sport? I know hitting a baseball, I mean that's we can get down a whole rabbit hole, but I've always thought hockey is got to be way up there.
They're freak athletes, absolutely freak athletes in the hand-eye coordination, how fast that game's moving if you're there in person. And I mean, with the Blackhawks, I don't know if there's a better place than a playoff Blackhawks game at the United Center. That place absolutely rocks. And I was getting fired up watching the Game 7s at these home arenas because, the atmosphere and the energy was through the roof. And I can't wait for Chicago to get that again.
Yeah, I've kind of been dabbling a little bit this weekend myself in some basketball, NBA. I'm not much of an NBA guy, but I was watching some this weekend, the Warriors, watching Steph play, and then I've been watching some Sunday morning soccer. It's pretty fun to watch the Premier League stuff. I'm kind of into that now. But then also the Cubs, man, PCA was tearing it up. I was watching them on Friday night on Apple TV. They have their Friday night games, and it was awesome. I mean, that guy, he's a stud. The Cubs are awesome. I think they ended up winning maybe 10-0, 11-0, something like that, but their offense is on fire. Def, you kind of called it with the Kyle Tucker trade and their offense being good. I think you talked about that maybe in December or January when we kind of had some of those podcasts. So, yeah, they're rolling, which is good to see. I'm not even going to say it. I don't want to jinx anything, but I've just seen some awesome stuff.
Well, now they gotta open their wallet to 2 guys, Kyle Tucker and PCA,
yeah,
if they want to keep both of them. So that'll be interesting. I mean, it's a good problem to have, having players that you're gonna have to pay because they're performing, but can't be cheap anymore. We gotta get over the Hayward thing and just open the wallet.
I agree. But let's move over to some college baseball stuff. Over here in Normal, I was driving over by the ISU baseball field, I think on Friday or Saturday night, and I wanted to get to a game this weekend because they were in town playing Missouri State, but it was a little chilly outside. I figured I wouldn't stop by. It kind of rained a lot this weekend too, but hopefully one of these days I can get out and watch some college baseball. But NIU, they won their series over Eastern Michigan this past weekend. UIC swept Valpo. SIUE won their series against Western Illinois, and then they now lead the conference at 15-6. They're 23-22 overall. Eastern Illinois is third in the OVC at 12-6, 24-18 overall, and Southern Illinois is third in the Missouri Valley at 12-8, 31-15 overall. But yeah, I see a couple nuggets in here on some guys, but the first one I'm going to mention is just Connor Lockwood at Valpo. kind of coming back, and he earned Valpo's Male Perseverance Award this year. He currently leads the Missouri Valley both in strikeouts and innings pitched. 84.2 innings pitched, 67 strikeouts, and I know that the guy that is second with innings pitched has like 62 innings pitched, so he has like over 20 innings pitched more than the guy that's in second. So pretty crazy there to see that. But guys, I see a couple other nuggets in here if you want to get in there on that.
Yeah, Cole Van Assen, he's been tearing it up lately, but this past week he threw 7 innings against Northwestern, 7 shutout innings with no runs or walks, struck out 7. And now in his last 2 starts, he's got 14 innings pitched with just 1 run, no walks, and 14 Ks. So really good for him. I was checking the other day. He's got like a 4.2 ERA. It's like towards the top of the list. He's also one of the top innings. Like he has some of the most innings on the team. I mean, he's only a sophomore, so that's really good for him. I mean, he's long been like the pitchability, polished, smart, guy that's he's just going to go out and get outs. So there's no surprise there. Even at the future games in 2023, like the pitchability he had, and just he was mature and wise beyond his years. So not surprised to see him doing that over there. And then Brandon Back for UIC, he threw a no-hitter against Valparaiso, 7-inning no-hitter and a 10-0 win. So good for both of those guys. Good to see them tearing it up and, eating a lot of innings for good clubs too.
And Pete, I don't want to take this away from you because this is kind of your news, but some Division II baseball. What do you got for us?
Yeah, Lewis won their regular season GLVC champs. So yeah, they're 36-14, 24-8 in conference. We'll see how they do in the tournament, and then hopefully they can get into a regional. They haven't been in a regional in, I don't know, probably over 10 years, I would think, which is kind of not ideal, but hopefully they can get back in there and start making some noise.
And then moving down to Division III news, Def, I know you sent this over. You're kind of our D3 guy. It's in my backyard, but if you want to go ahead and just give the nugget, feel free.
Yeah, Illinois Wesleyan secured the CCIW regular season title, so they'll be the 1 seed in their conference tournament starting this weekend. I was just doing some digging to see, so that tournament starts Wednesday, so they won't play until Thursday. They get a bye. How it works in the CCIW is top 6 teams from the conference go to tournament. 3 through 6 will play Wednesday, and 1 and 2 get a bye. North Central is actually the 2 seed, so cool to see there. Shout out to IWU. Yeah, Gavin, right there in your backyard, baby. D3 Kings.
Yeah,
IWU. I've never heard that in my life.
No.
Oh, really? Oh, I might have just messed up then. Because, in Ohio, we had an Ohio Wesley, and we called him OWU. So I just, I assumed you guys called him IWU. But, all right, well,
you should start that, though. We should start saying that.
I mean, something different.
But. Yeah, they North Park, another Illinois team up there in Chicago, they play on Wednesday, and I was actually out yesterday shopping, getting some groceries, and one of my buddies who actually plays up there, we went to high school together. He was a few years younger than me, but he is still on the team this year, and he was in town visiting, and I had no idea. I just saw him at the store, and was talking to him, and yeah, they play on Wednesday, North Park. I'm not sure who they play, but it's all over at Illinois Wesleyan, so pretty cool to see that. But no, I see some high school news here. We just found out some, I guess, breaking news type stuff this morning. Again, this won't be breaking news on Wednesday, I guess, but today's breaking news. So what do you guys got?
Yeah, I was just scrolling Twitter, and I saw Michael O'Brien. He tweeted that the ESCC is going away. So those teams will be joining the CCL and the GSAC in 26 and 27, and they've actually already partnered with the CCL in football. So really interesting. The rich getting richer. That power conference just got better. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to argue with people. That's got to be the hands down best conference in the state now. We were kind of talking about that, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see who actually ends up going where and how it splits up. But I thought it was some really, really interesting news this morning.
Well, and I think that's what's most interesting, right? What's going to be the breakdown? Who's going to go over to the CCL? How's the CCL now going to break that up? Is it still going to be blue and white? What's that going to even look like? But yeah, really crazy. It's going to be very interesting, like I said, just to see what that breakdown's going to be, who's all going to actually go over to the CCL, but like you said, Hammond, that's probably got to be hands down best conference in the state starting next year, I would think.
Well, boys, getting into some baseball news, at least for us. Like, I know one thing that we worked really hard on coming off the winter, and we're able to push out kind of our first tier or set of invites is the Illinois State games. Hopefully, a lot of people listening to this may have seen it get splashed out a little bit on social with some lead up tweets and stuff like that, and the hard copy mailers going out in the mail. But official invites went out late last week. Some 400 plus invites to some of the top guys that we know of, guys we saw this winter, guys that have been on our list for a long time. And the Illinois State games, the beauty of it for me is we get to bring players in all classes from the high school level. So the seniors, the high-end 2026s after the summer that are going into their senior year are going to play with some 29s, some 28s. So those freshmen and sophomores. And the way we look at the invite process, and you guys can feel free to jump in at any time, but the older you are, the easier it should be for you to get an invitation. If we think you are a college caliber player at the 2026 level, and somebody that's going to entice a lot of schools that are going to be there, we think you should be invited to the Illinois State games. And then as you go younger and younger, the better you have to be to get an invite. So, how that lays out is the majority of the invites are going to go to those 2026s, those 2027s. And then the higher level players at the 28s, the 29s, if they're lucky enough to get invited, that is probably the hardest ages to get invited. We think that a 2028 coming to the event should be a high follow Division I prospect. So those 2028s out there that maybe haven't gotten invited yet or whatever, that's really the main, we are just extremely tight at those younger ages. Be patient with that. Come out this summer, come to an event, show us what you can do. And that would be my advice to anybody that didn't get an invite in this initial round. All throughout the summer, we are going to be looking for invites to the event. Whether it's at one of our showcases, one of our tournaments, and then at high school games all spring long. So we still have a lot of high school baseball left. If we don't see you during the high school season, you want to make sure that we see you before this Illinois State games. Come to one of our summer IDs. That is why we're running them. We want to see you, and we want to get as many invites out there as possible. Last year, we had 20 teams, close to 400 players. We are expecting, pretty much the same. We are slotting invites and roster spots for 18 to 20 teams. Hopefully one of those teams will be a pro case team, and we will showcase you on day one, and then you guys will get a 3-game guarantee on that day between day 1 and day 2. You should play 1 game on day 1 and then 2 games on day 2. Quick and easy. Get a ton of schools there at the Rantoul Sports Complex. It's August 5th and 6th. And you should have junior college coaches coaching the teams in every dugout. Should be another great event. Knock on wood. Let's start thinking about amazing weather right now. But if there's anything I missed there that anybody wants to touch on, feel free.
Drew, I just think it's cool to see from year one to what it was last year, the progression and the amount of coaches coming, just the event as a whole, the excitement around the event. I think it's been awesome. I always look forward to it. It's just I feel like it's packed. Really, last year, there was packed with coaches everywhere. So I thought that was awesome to see. And obviously this year now, I know we've been talking about it, but a lot of people have posted their invites, and I think just the excitement and buzz around the event has kind of been going around Twitter, which is cool to see as well. So a couple things I wanted to add.
And hopefully it does. Yeah, hopefully it just continues to grow because it is a great event. I think it's by far the biggest value a player gets, at one of our events. And I love that you mentioned the college coaches because the numbers have continued to grow. Last year we had 75 plus coaches there. They come from all different divisions, all levels at that next level, and I love that too. You get junior college coaches, NAIA, D3, D2, D1 schools. The D1 schools that come, they're mostly the Midwest schools, and that's what they pretty much should be at that event. But also we also promote it and highlight players and people that don't show up at the event, see the guys that are performing well as at the same time. So should be a great event. We're going to continue to look for invites, as we move down into the summer or towards the summer and, towards the event. So like if you were not one of those tier 1 invites and you're waiting for your invite, hey, where was it? Like, reach out and get in front of us. Let us see you. Anytime we see you, that could go, towards an invite only event such as the Illinois State Games.
Yeah, and Drew, I mean, I guess on the high school topic, just big, not really, I guess, a big update, but with the Power 25, I mean, the first, 1 through 5 kind of remain the same, but is there anything you want to add before kind of going through some teams?
Well, absolutely. And I think it just speaks to, it wasn't a huge update this week, which it really means like one thing to me. The really good schools had really good weeks. Because when that happens, when these schools in our Power 25 go undefeated, they either move up or there's not a whole lot of movement that happens. It's when these teams in the Power 25 lose a bunch of games or have it, a 2-2 week. That's when there's a lot of moving and shaking and tough decisions to make, to be honest. And there were still this week some hard decisions to make. But looking at it, the top 5 remain the same. At the top of the state remains Brother Rice. Like what they are doing right now is just highly impressive. They went 4-0 on the week. They are 23-1. They outscored their opponents 48-9 on the week. Just moving down the list there of our top 5. These teams all stayed in the same spot. But you got Brother Rice at number 1. Then you got Libertyville. Then you got McHenry, Manuka, Triad. They all have 20-plus wins and 3 losses or less. Triad comes in at 20-3. They're coming off a 3-0 week. And then right behind them, you got fellow kind of Glen Carbon, Edwardsville area school there, Edwardsville, which really close location to Triad. And then when you start factoring in Father McGivney there too, you got 3 schools that are within like a 10-mile radius that are all sitting in our top 25. But Edwardsville, they're up 2 spots. We mentioned it in weeks past on this podcast. Like, don't let their record fool you. They've been rattling off wins ever since the NHSI. They went 3-0 last week. They are up to 14-6, and they continue to, on paper, have one of the best rosters. And then when we go get our eyes on them, they just continue to impress. But they knocked off Rochester 8-0 last week, and then they also took 2 from Alton. And then you've got Lincoln Way East up 2 spots after a really impressive 4-0 week, including a 10-0 win over 2024 4A state champion Providence Catholic, which I thought was a statement win. But they are 19-4, up 2 spots, and there's some other schools here rising as well.
Yeah, Drew, you mentioned them. Number 8, Father McGivney. Now they're up 2 spots, 25-2 on the year. 5-0 week. They're outscoring opponents 284-45. They're 10-0 in conference. And then honestly, probably the most impressive thing of all, 58 runs scored this past week. They only gave up 2 runs. Like that's insane. Obviously, Dane, you've seen them quite a bit. They've got a really talented lineup and depth in their lineup, and then their pitching is obviously very solid as well, and they have pitching depth too. So good stuff there from Father McGivney this past week. They're up to number 8 now.
Yeah, and Gav, I'm going to cut in here because just like looking, they're a 1A school, and they are putting it to 3A and 4A schools. Alton is a really good club. They knocked them off 5-0 last week. Highland has all kinds of arms over there, and they're just a traditionally an extremely good team. They beat them 11-1. And then you go back to last week, like they knocked off Belleville East 12-1, which was a team that, we were looking at very, very closely as far as just the rankings are concerned. Them and Belleville West, so not only are they beating these teams, but like you said, the number of runs they're putting up and what they're doing is just highly impressive. I think they're a team that you could kind of put them up against anybody in this top 10. I think they're going to give them a tough fight.
Totally. Yeah, and I think an awesome 1A matchup would be McGivney and Marquette with like Novotny on the mound, and I think that'd just be an awesome matchup.
Anybody that Father McGivney kind of chooses,
Yes.
I feel like gives them a chance to win with how good their lineup is, but I could not be more on the same page.
Yeah.
A little Novotny, Father McGivney, state final, state semi. Let's get something like that going.
Yeah, so Pete, what do you got on some of these other teams in here?
Yeah, moving down here, we got St. Lawrence moving up 2 spots. They're in the top 10 now at number 9. They went 4-0 on the week. They're rolling. They're 20-3 on the year now. They took 2 from St. Rita, and then they also took 2 from Loyola. So yeah, they're rolling. We're really high on them. And then moving down, we got Prairie Ridge. They had a big jump. They're up 5 spots now to number 18 after a 4-0 week. They're 20-5 on the year. They took down Cary Grove, Dundee Crown twice, and then Buffalo Grove as well. So they're another hot one right now. And then looking at some newcomers here, Gav, we got one that we've kind of been eyeing kind of for a while now. Plainfield Central. They're getting in at 20-4. They've had some really good wins on the year, so yeah, they're finally making their debut.
Yeah, and Normal U High coming in at number 23. I mean, they're a solid team that we've kind of been eyeing as well. Pete, throughout the year, they're 18-4 on the season. They had a 2-0 week. They're 6-1 in conference. This past week, they scored 17 runs and only allowed 3. Another Normal team, number 15, Normal Community, but they actually face each other this week, and I think U High is going to kind of have a challenging week coming up with Glenwood, Normal Community, and East Peoria. All 3 really good teams in the Central Illinois region, so we'll see how they fare. But yeah, 18-4, now number 23.
Yeah, they definitely passed the eye test. I got to look at them at the Kickoff Classic. But moving down here, we got St. Francis hopping in at number 24. They're 17-3 on the year. They had a 4-0 week. Took down Aurora Central Catholic twice, and then IC Catholic twice as well. And they got it. We were talking about it earlier. They're just a really, interesting club. They got a former pro coach. Like, they know what they're doing over there. There's a lot to like. And then Mundelein hopping in the 25th spot. They're 15-5 on the year. And they went 3-0 on the week, and they've had some really good wins so far. And their losses came against some really tough teams as well. But they took 2 this week from Warren Township, and then they also took down Carmel.
Yeah, so moving over to some scores and highlights now. I'll just kind of kick it off first. I kind of stuck with some of these Central Illinois, like 1A, 2A programs. But Teutopolis, they beat Farina South Central 12-2 last week. Mick Niebrugge went 2 for 4 with a homer, 5 RBIs and a run scored. And then over for Sherrard, Aiden Ternes, he struck out 12, allowed 2 hits and 5.2 innings pitched in their 10-3 win over Orion. For Dunlap, in their 10-0 win over Canton, Owen Schisler threw a complete game, shut out in 5 innings with 9 strikeouts. And then this is a smaller school, but kind of up north. Obviously, right on the border, Richard Carlson, a 2027 from South Beloit, struck out 21 in a complete game shutout in their 7-0 win over Lincoln Academy. Like, that's ridiculous. And then Tanner Thomas down at Arcola went 4 for 4 with 2 homers, 3 runs scored, and 6 RBIs in their 9-2 win over Neoga. And then Jerry Vasek struck out 15 batters in 5 innings pitched in Westmont's 10-0 win. So that's what I got on some scores and highlights from last week. But Drew, what do you got?
Yeah, love it. Love hearing Tanner Thomas's name. He's a really impressive 2-way prospect down there. So there are a couple things that stuck out to me last week, and I'm not going to mention all of them, but a couple of the ones that really stood out was Marist beat Maine South 6-2, and I had mentioned Marist previously because of a huge win. They kind of ended Naz's long win streak, and it came at the hands of Colin Lawler, a freshman lefty. Well, he did it once again, and that's what, at least for me, like, looking for the consistent performances, a guy that's the same guy every time out. It's great to be a flash in the pan and have one good outing and then a couple bad and then, another good outing. But it seems like Lawler's done nothing but throw well since he's been getting varsity innings. So in that 6-2 win over Maine South, he went 4 1/3 scoreless innings. He struck out 3 and he didn't walk anybody. One of the reasons I chose this one was, like, we just rolled out our 2028 rankings. We took it from 5 to 10 prospects. We kept it extremely small. Lawler's right there. He's a guy that we had talked about. He's a guy that we saw in the winter throw a bullpen. We need to go see him now this spring. We're going to continue to update this list, and it'll continue to lengthen and expand as we go here through this 2028's journey through high school. But he is a guy that's certainly high on the list. Long levers, just a lefty you can dream on. So regardless, like the fact that he's not on the rankings right now really doesn't matter. He's a guy that's super high on our list and a guy we're going to be out to see. Um, Another game that kind of caught my eye down in your area there, Gavin and Dane, was Tremont. And just Tremont's team as a whole, they've really caught my eye. They're playing a lot better baseball, it seems like. They knocked off Leroy last week 2-1. They've got 11 wins in a row now. 14 of their last 15 they've won. Andrew Dawson was kind of the story of that game. He's a 2026. It was up to 91.9 this winter for us. Has shown like high level of competitiveness on the mound as well. But he struck out 10 in 4 innings. Just a name to know. They're a 2026 with a strong arm out of Tremont, uncommitted. And then Lake Park. They're just always a team that is going to win 20 plus games every year. They're going to play good baseball. They're going to be a team you don't want to see in the playoffs because you know they're not going to beat themselves. They beat St. Charles East last week 11-10 in extra innings. But what caught my eye going through kind of our roundup was they scored 8 runs in the 7th, which I thought was kind of crazy. To give up 8 runs in 1 inning in the 7th, that's just a tough break there for St. Charles East. But Lake Park putting up 8 runs in the 7th to come away with the 11-10 victory in extra innings. And just looking through some of the stat lines there, Robert Monaco, he drove in the winning run with an RBI single in the top of the 8th. But really, the guy that was doing it all week for Lake Park, and he got submitted for Player of the Week this week. I haven't given it a hard look to see who's going to win or whatnot, but Gavin O'Neill, he's a senior with some big tools. He went 4 for 4 in that game, and he's committed to Harper Junior College.
Yeah, moving down here, I'm a little biased being a pitcher myself, so I love some good pitching stat lines. But Landon Corbin, for Normal Community, he's a 2026. He struck out 14 of the 19 batters faced, so really good outing from him. And then Lucas Grant, he's making a case for Pitcher of the Week here. Like Drew said, we really haven't looked at it too closely yet. It's Monday here, so we'll get to that after this. But he, against Naz, through 6 innings, allowed just 2 hits, didn't walk anybody, didn't allow any runs, and he struck out 15. So against that lineup, ultra impressive, and they won that game 10-0. And on the year, Grant actually has 39.2 innings with a 1.588 ERA. So really impressive stuff there. And then on May 1st, Quinn Roberts, he hit 2 home runs for number 20 DePaul College Prep. Just a good little game there. And then Jack Bauer, he punched out 9 in 4 innings of work on his outing that week, or that day, May 1st. So, I mean, Jack Bauer just keeps throwing strikes, man. Just keeps doing it. Like, he's the talk of the town. Everywhere you go, everyone's talking about Jack Bauer. And he just keeps doing it. He just does not walk anybody. He's throwing 102. He's throwing strikes. Like, not much else to say about that, you know?
What a stud.
Yeah.
Like, he firmly put the spotlight on himself coming out first outing of the year, topping 100, and he just keeps doing it. That is so impressive.
He knew, right? I mean, he DM'd us. He's like, "Hey, you guys should come to my start." And we're like, "Yeah, we'll see. We got a lot going on right now. We'll see." And then he was pumping 100. We're like, "Yeah, all right, Jack." Well, noted.
And the tough thing about that was I'm pretty sure it was one of the days of the kickoff classic. So we put a lot of our efforts in down south early in the season, seeing all of those games down there. So it is tough when you have such an awesome event like the kickoff classic where you're seeing 50 teams from all over. But there is a Jack Bauer up there throwing. It's like, man, I really want to see that at the same time. So luckily for us, Jack has thrown all spring long, and it just seems to continue to get more and more polished. And the velo's kind of just been 96 to 100, and whether he touches 100 a couple times once, but the domination has stayed the same. So awesome to see.
Well, and I mean, we've got a few weeks before we decide any of this, but something I brought up last week when we saw the stat line is dude, he's put himself firmly in the conversation for Player of the Year. Our award we give out every year. I'm about to talk about 3 guys who are firmly in that mix as well. But man, with his domination, and then you also factor in the stuff he has, it's going to be a really hard decision for us, and hopefully it all sorts itself out in the next few weeks. But it's crazy.
Well, I love the conversation, and that it's like we're getting to the point of the season where we can actually have a conversation. Like, hey, here's some guys we need to, keep an eye on for that Player of the Year watch. And I love the name you have down here. Like, I don't know if I want to steal your thunder at all, but like Hayden Bernruder at Triad, he's been one of like the higher ceiling, just like on a upward trajectory for 2025s that I know of in the state. The performances we saw early in the year, and then I know Dane just continues to see him rake, and then what he does on the mound too. And those Player of the Year, it's tough to beat the guys that put up huge numbers on both sides of the ball. Which makes it really hard for a PO like a Jack Bauer or another name you have here on this list. And I'll just transition it right to you, but you got Brandon Shannon on here too.
Yeah, no, I mean, all three of these guys I'm about to talk about, I would think, are firmly in that mix for Player of the Year. I'll start out Connor Essenberg. I feel like this guy just does it every week. He puts himself firmly in the mix for the Player of the Week award we give out every single week, it feels like. But he went 2 for 3 with a leadoff bomb. Also hit a double, drove in 2 in a 6-3 win over conference rival Homewood Flossmoor last week. Hayden Bernruder, like Drew said, does it on both sides of the ball. Again, well, as does Essenberg, right? Both those guys seem like they do it on both sides of the ball every week. But Bernruder 3 for 3 with a homer, 3 RBI, and a 10-2 win over Jersey. And then Brandon Shannon tossed a no-hitter in McHenry's 5-1 win over Burlington Central. Actually struck out 12 of the 23 batters he faced. So I think I was just bad luck for Shannon, I guess, when I went and saw him, because it seems like every other outing he's just absolutely dominating and like not giving up a hit or not giving up a run, because I want to say this is his second or maybe even his third hitless start for McHenry. So pretty absurd there.
Well, and it's funny to hear you say that, because I'm guessing when you went to watch him, I don't even have the stat line in front of him. He probably struck out like 8 to 10 guys, maybe.
Like, he was still really good.
Yeah,
it was just like he's been like Superman anytime we're not out to see him. But seemed more human when I was out to see him. But still, obviously threw the ball really well. But he's having a heck of a year.
Like, with a Brandon Shannon, with a Jack Bauer, it's like with a Connor Essenberg. Look at the competition these guys are playing too. And they're doing what they're doing. It's video game type numbers against really, really good competition. Just playing in really good leagues. Like Brandon Shannon's in one of the best leagues this spring with the Fox Valley, and how good it is and how deep it is. So there's a lot of factors that go into the Player of the Year, and one of them to me is like, can you lead your team in the postseason as well? Sometimes that can be a make or break if you got two guys that are exactly the same, like who's the guy taking the ball in the biggest games can lead a team to state. So there's a lot still that remains to be decided here, but a lot of good players to choose from.
Well, and I'm glad you called out the competition part, because like, Hammett, like what you were saying with Lucas Grant, what he did against Naz, like there's a Jaden Fauske and a Landon Tomey in that lineup, and he punched out 15. Now, I don't know how many of those were Fauske or Tomey, but like still, for him to put up that stat line with two of those hitters who, regardless of class, are two of the best hitters in the entire state, in the entire country even. So that's really impressive for Lucas as well. So I just wanted to call that back as well.
Absolutely. It's a good call out. So
yeah, and Pete, moving over to pitcher and player of the week. Some good stat lines last week. So what do you got?
Yeah, well, we'll do position player of the week first. We got Josh Fleming from York. He's going to Grand Valley State. He's a senior. He went 10 for 16. He had 3 bombs. He had a triple, 2 doubles, 8 RBIs, and 10 runs scored. And he also walked twice and swiped a bag. So really good week for Josh. And then Austin Musso. He dominated once again, like we're used to seeing with from him. He took down Highland 7-0 through a complete game shutout. Just allowed 2 hits, and he struck out 17 with just 1 walk. So really impressive stuff from both those guys.
Well, and you just mentioned another name there, Austin Musso. He's going to be high on our Player of the Year watch too, because he was doing it with the bat at a high level early in the year, and then hasn't slowed down at all with what he's doing on the mound.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then moving over to Diamond Notes, I got a couple nuggets from this week's story that I just wanted to mention again. Kenyon Camp at Father McGivney went 8 for 13 on the week with 3 doubles, 5 RBIs, 6 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, and 3 walks. And then Anderson Kaufman down there at Alden, he threw 5 innings pitched, struck out 7, walked none, allowed 3 hits and no runs in Alton's 5-0 win over Belleville East. So Kaufman just continuing to do what he does, not walking a ton of guys, probably throwing a lot of strikes. So good stuff there.
Well, and that's a freshman that finds himself in the top 5 of our rankings. And a lot of it has to do with the fact we were able to get a ton of in-game looks on him. We had him at the Junior Future Games last year. We've seen him 2 or 3 times already this spring, and he is the same guy every time we see him. A stud. So keep doing it down there, Anderson. It's awesome to see. And I had a couple too, Gavin, if I can jump in here. But one was left-handed pitcher Josh Holst. He's been a rock there for like Libertyville for the last couple years. He's finally a senior. He recently just recommitted to Air Force. So he'll be going to Air Force Academy. But he threw a complete game shutout against Mundelein, one of their rivals. Struck out 14, didn't walk anybody, and allowed 5 hits. He's also a guy that impacts like the game with his left-handed bat as well. And he went 1 for 3 with an RBI single in the first inning of that game. Just that was a huge series, them against Mundelein. Mundelein was able to split with Libertyville. It is every year, just kind of like a highly sought-after series. You can kind of throw out the records and the rankings, and those teams just battle. And then I had Patrick Connors, a 2026 outfielder, uncommitted at Hinsdale Central. Did it with the bat, but then like also the stolen bases to me just really stood out. But in a 4-game stretch, he had 8 hits and 16 at bats, so he hit 500. But he stole 9 bases in 4 games, and then he also got on the mound and threw 3 innings, no runs, gave up 1 hit. I really like him in center field. He can flat run and go get it, and then that clearly is translating to the base pass as well. So kind of a game changer, top of the order type of guy there for Hinsdale Central, somebody that a lot of people should, schools and coaches at the next level should be paying attention to.
And then, Gavin, 2 names I wanted to throw out. I always bring this up, but my player of the year pick before the year was Enzo Infelice. Had another big week this past week. 9 for 16, 3 bombs, 8 RBIs, 4 runs scored, and a walk. Hammond, I know you'll probably touch on him here in a little bit later because you saw Pravi this past Saturday. But want to shout out Enzo, man. Just, again, continues to prove himself as one of the better bat-to-ball guys in the entire state. Then I want to move over to Batavia. Brandon Oakey, 2027. Listen, he showed really well for us at the Lockport preseason ID earlier this winter, and seems like he's just been tearing it up all season for Batavia. This past week, over 5 games, went 9 for 16 with 2 walks. Also threw out 4 runners on the base paths. So doing it on both sides of the ball. So really excited to see Brandon's performing. Like, I know we bring it up all the time, but it's one thing to see these guys show well in a showcase setting, but when they go to their high school teams in the spring and really put up numbers there, that to us is really what matters. So just want to shout out Brandon. He's having a heck of a year.
I like the Enzo shout out too, and I know Pete's going to probably get into it with watching Mount Carmel and Pravi over the weekend, but I think an underrated thing about Enzo is like he's long been one of the top right-handed bats in the state. Providence has a ton of versatility. They have a ton of depth. That their roster is one of the more impressive rosters in the state. But like Enzo has played all over the place. Like he can play first base, he can play third. I think some of this year he's played a little shortstop. But then he also is probably their top catcher, and they've got a lot of good catchers over there at Providence. But he's one of their top catchers, and then he also pitches. It's like this guy can kind of do a little bit of everything. Yet, every day he's still performing at the plate. To give Coach Smith over there that much versatility with one of your best players, and for Enzo to just keep doing his thing, I just think that's really impressive and something that's always really caught my eye with Enzo here the last 2 years.
Yeah, so moving over to game coverage on Monday, I thought it was pretty cool. Dane and I were both out at some Central Illinois games. I think that might have been the first time since I've been around that we had 2 Central Illinois games in one night that we were covering, so I thought that was awesome. But I was over at St. Joe Ogden, and they were playing Pleasant Plains. St. Joe won 7-3. My MVP of that game was Bryson Houchins. He was a starting pitcher for them, up to 86 on the mound. He went 2 for 3 at the plate with a double, 2 RBIs, and then on the mound he threw 5 innings and struck out 3. And kind of the turning point of that game was really the bottom of the second when St. Joe scored 4 runs to give them kind of an early 5-0 lead. They kind of basically just kind of won the game at that point for them, essentially. They started out the inning with a hit by pitch and then a walk. They eventually scored on a wild pitch, and then another on a single from Will Haley and another from Bryson Houchins, double to left field. And then the prospect spotlight, I've got a couple, but one of them is going to be my prospect of the week. But just a spotlight from the game that I want to mention is Logan Rosenthal. He's the center fielder and bats leadoff for the Spartans. He's a left-handed hitter. Played good center field. I liked the actions during in and out. It just really moves around well. He's an athlete, you can tell. And then I liked his at-bats. A left-handed hitter with some strength in the frame. It's compact. Took really good ABs, was fouling off pitches. The stat line probably would not show great for him. Just I think he maybe had a hit or 1 for 3 in the game, if I remember right. But I just really liked it. He's an uncommitted 2026. He's an athlete with some strength and a guy that we've kind of continued to see just trend up, which is always good as well. But yeah, St. Joe Ogden won that one 7-3 in a big, kind of highly touted two-way matchup. I would say 2 of the better records in that two-way class.
All right, I went to East Peoria versus Washington in East Side. Washington ended up winning this game 1-0. My MVP was Carter Prina, who threw a complete game shutout with 10 strikeouts while allowing only 5 hits and 2 walks. At the plate, he went 1 for 3 with an RBI. On the mound, he sat 84-88 while topping out at 90 and mixed in a curveball that sat 70-73 with sharp actions. Very competitive on the mound. The turning point in this game was Gavin Lawrence starting the game with a double down the left field line. Eli Rodell would advance Lawrence to third on our infield single, and then Carter Prina followed up with an RBI single into right field to score the game's only run. A couple guys I like to highlight. RJ Duncan, ISU commit from East Peoria, 2026. He threw a complete game as well, striking out 8 guys, only allowing that 1 run and those 3 hits in the entire game, and did not walk anybody. Sat 88-91 while topping out at 92. Changeup sat 83-84, and he kept that low. Slider sat 76-78 with sharp actions. Looked really good, really confident. Never got down, just stayed on it, and helped his team, tried to help his team guide through the game. Joe Clark, East Peoria 2025. This is a guy that on the daily roundup, every time we're in the morning, we're writing this stuff. I feel like Joe Clark's name is constantly in the roundup. He went 1 for 2 with a walk and a stolen base. He showed a patient approach as he came back from a 1-2 count to work that walk in the bottom of the second. The most impressive play in the entire game was Clark showing off a cannon of an arm in center when he caught a runner advancing to third after a pickoff attempt that ended up in center field. It was thrown on a rope to third and easily caught the runner. Very impressive stuff and an interesting 2025 that has shown well all season.
Then I'm glad you mentioned him because in the game that I saw, he was very similar. Like, I think he was sitting in the 9 hole, but he was just taking some really, really good at bats. Like, he was probably the toughest out in that East Peoria lineup in the game that I saw, and he was facing a really good pitcher when I saw them in Cash Van Houten. Sorry, it was really impressive. And then the same thing, like he had a good arm from the outfield, and I think I might be mixing it up. It might have been Canton center fielder that had a throw out at home, but he showed a good arm, at least an IO or something like that. But yeah, it's good stuff there. All right, and then looking at Tuesday, I was over at Monticello to watch Monticello versus Mount Zion. It was a really just good baseball game, but also I got to see 2 really good pitchers in the game as well. Monticello ultimately won the game 4-3, but the MVP of the game was DH Hayden Romano. He hit a walk-off single in the bottom of the 7th on an RBI single up the middle of the field to win that game 4-3. The turning point of the game, I would say the Sages were down 3-0. Monticello scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 5th on a pass ball and an RBI ground out from Eli Kraft to cut the Zion lead to 1. And then at the bottom of the 6th, still down 1, they scored 2 runs, and the game-leading run coming from an RBI single from shortstop Dawson Geistros. He's a 2027. And then obviously they ended up winning that game 4-3, like I mentioned. But prospect spotlight. I talked about a couple weeks ago Ike Young. He was up to 95 in this look, but kind of wanted to give love to somebody else because he had Ike Young also had a good outing, and it was a good look at him. But Andrew Tay, Mount Zion 2025 Southeastern Community College commit, 6'2", 197-pound frame. I really liked the mover on the mound. It's really easy, pretty simple. He was up to 93 three times. He was shown a swing and miss curveball at like 78 to 81, and then he had threw one changeup at like 81 miles an hour with fade. His velo held throughout. It was mostly 85 to 88, and then obviously sprinkled in a couple of 90s throughout. But the velo was the same throughout the entire outing. I was veloing through the fourth or fifth inning, I believe. But no, I was really impressed. I think he's going to be really good in college. I think Southeastern will be a good fit for him to kind of develop, and I'm curious to see what happens with him and how he does and how he performs at Southeastern, but then obviously moving forward after that too. But good stuff there from Andrew Tay. And like I said, Ike Young was good too, up to 95. It was a tick higher than what I saw the previous outing from him. But he was mostly like 91, 93 early, and I think he kind of settled around 88 to 91, 92. But yeah, that was a good game. Probably one of my favorite, like, most nail-biter games that I've seen throughout the year so far. So good stuff there over at Monticello.
Yeah, that Ike Young video looked special. Just the way it moves and the fastball and the slider. I mean, that kid is really, 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 really interesting. But I can hop in here.
Just to add, it's impressive too that like he's a three-sport athlete. He plays football. He just got done playing basketball. I mean, I guess it's May now, but it's been a few months. But still, like the fact that he's up to 95 and he was playing three sports, like it's crazy.
I mean, it's not surprising. He's like super bouncy and he can like windmill dunk, right?
Yeah,
he can definitely dunk.
I know that. So I don't know. It was a couple weeks ago, maybe on his Instagram story. He posted a video because I think we were tagging him in a video on Instagram, so we were looking through his Instagram, and he had like a video of him. It was a 360 dunk, and it's just like he's just an athlete. It's crazy.
I can hop in here. So I went down to Edwardsville on Tuesday, and I caught them versus Alton, and Edwardsville won that one 13-8. So I got a few MVPs here. I think the real MVP of the game, like overarching, is actually Alex Pilger from Alton. He went 3 for 4 with a double and 5 RBI, so he had 5 of the 8 runs driven in for Alton. But for Edwardsville, I'm going to go with their MVPs are Tyler Powell. He went 3 for 4 with 3 doubles. He was all over the barrel. He's more known as like a pitcher, obviously, going SIUE, but I was pretty in on the bat. It was really interesting. But he had an RBI and 2 runs scored, and then Logan Porter, he went 3 for 4 with a triple and 2 RBIs and 2 runs scored. So a couple good lines there. And then the turning point in this one, though, it was kind of just the bottom of the first inning, really. The Tigers, they got out to a quick 5-0 lead, and really that ended up being the difference. Joe Shiroto, an Alabama commit, he was starting on the mound as well, but him and Augie Johns, they both had RBI singles. They made it 2-0 at the time, and then back-to-back doubles from Tyler Powell, and then Grayson Rathgeb made it 5-0. My prospect spotlights in this one, I've got to go Joe Shiroto for one. He was, like I said, he started on the mound, 89 to 91, good curveball, good slider, kind of what we're used to seeing. But positionally, I mean, he is tooled up, and he wasn't playing the outfield, but we've seen it. He's super interesting. He can run, he can throw, he can go get it in the outfield, and the bat to ball is really good as well. I think he's an interesting prospect as a position player as well. And like one of the things about him, like the bat to ball is really good, but he gets good swings off a lot, and it's just always like he's always hitting in front of us as well. So he's just one that I've long been a fan of, and he just keeps doing it. And then for Alton, Anderson Kaufman, we were just talking about him. He got the start for them in a big conference matchup. So I mean, being a freshman, facing that lineup in a conference setting, and in that atmosphere, man, I just thinking back, like I don't know how I would have handled myself, but like that kid just oozes confidence, man. Like I was watching him in the dugout before the game, and he kind of peeked over and he saw me, and he just gave like one of those like nods, like let's go, man. Like PBR's here, like I'm gonna show out. Like I was just like all in on that, like super confident. I just love the kid, and man, He was 85 to 87 with a good curveball, a good changeup. I mean, it's 3 pitches for strikes. He's mature. It's holy crap! My cat just jumped on the table. Um, I don't know if you saw that shake. I'm gonna start over for a second. But it was 85 to 87. Good curveball, good changeup. He's mature beyond his years. Just the overall polish and 3 pitches for strikes. Just the way he handles himself, man. I'm a big fan. It's a bouncy mover too. Like, there's just a lot going on there that I like. And he's a good little position player too. He can catch and he can hit a little bit. He's hitting in their 7 or 8 hole. So, I mean, just a good all-around look at both of those guys. And there's a lot of prospects on this team. So I published quite a bit of names in the scout blog from that one. So go check that out if you're interested.
Yeah, and then also on Tuesday, I actually went over to Sandburg, watched some like Orland Park versus Tinley Park conference rivalry action. It was Sandburg against Andrew. Andrew won 8-4. MVP for me for this one is left-handed pitcher Danny Moss, who's an uncommitted 2026, which also kind of goes into my turning point. But Moss tossed 6 scoreless innings in relief, allowed just 2 hits, 2 walks, and struck out 4 in the game. And really, he was the turning point in this one. Sandberg got out to a quick 4-0 lead in the bottom of the first and chased the Andrew starter out of the game. And then that very next inning, Moss comes in and just shuts down Sandberg for the rest of the game, which really allowed Andrew to come back, take the pressure off their offense because he was just putting up 0 after 0 after 0. But more on Moss, pitchability left-hander. He threw all 3 pitches for strikes. It's nothing overpowering right now, but, he was 80 to 82 at the fastball, but it's got like that true sink to it. Really liked his changeup, had a ton of fade to it at 70 to 71, and then was tossing in a short breaking ball as well to just kind of keep hitters off those 2 pitches primarily, but really liked his game overall, and, big time performance from him out of the pen, which helped Andrew get that conference victory. But prospect highlight for me is I want to touch on a couple guys here. First one being catcher Nolan Kendall, a 2026 uncommitted for Andrew. The guy actually catching Moss, thought he showed really well on both sides of the ball. Bad side of the leadoff spot for Andrew. Left-handed hitter was all over the barrel. Like his first 2 at-bats, like lined out to center. Then he got a line drive single to right. And then his very last at-bat lines out to right. But he was just all over the barrel. Everything he was hitting it hard. And behind the plate, like, showed me some real leadership behind the plate. Like, really liked how he handled himself. Very composed back there. Got to be a steady presence for all those Andrew arms, I would think. So overall, just also really liked how he received the ball too. So big fan of Nolan. His brother Caden Kendall was playing shortstop. Thought he had a good game. He's a big time arm for Andrew as well, and it's really easy to see why. Like when you watch him play short, like his arm can play from anywhere on the left side of the infield. Very strong arm. He was accurate. So I thought he had a good game as well. And then also want to touch on Quinn Durkin out of Sandburg. Now, this is a guy I know we've touched on before. Has really performed for Sandburg all season. He's a 2-sport guy. Actually plays running back for Sandburg in the fall. And that speed certainly translates on the field. He's a left-handed hitter. Item clocked at a 4.2 down the line and then a 4.22 down the line. So pretty crazy foot speed, and it's easy as well. So just really liked his game. Wasn't rewarded in the stat sheet, but all sorts of athleticism from Quinn. And that's what I got from Tuesday.
Yeah, and then moving over to Wednesday, obviously some bad weather, but just quickly, I was over in Sherrard to catch an inning of the Sherrard and Rockridge game. It was like it was 9 runs scored in the first inning by both teams. Rockridge put up 4 runs in the top half of the first, and then in the bottom half, Sherrard scored 5 runs. So a lot of runs scored, but yeah, the game ended up getting banged after the first inning because of mound conditions. It was kind of rainy. Just not a great day for baseball all around the state, I think. But that's what I got on Wednesday's games. And then, Dane, I know you were over to see some more Central Illinois action on Thursday. So what do you got from that?
Yeah, Thursday was another day that was very rainy in this area. But there was one game that happened on Thursday night, which was Morton versus Illinois Valley Central. Bourne came away with a 2-0 victory. The MVP in this game was Colin Burns, who threw a complete game shutout, 5 strikeouts while allowing 5 hits and 2 walks. He sat 81-83 with arm side run, changeup sat 77-78 that he kept low. Curveball sat 71-72 with 11-5 shape with depth. He also picked off a runner twice at second base, including one that ended the inning and got him out of his little jam. 2026, that's very interesting. Also hits and a very interesting player to keep an eye on. Turning point in this game, Morton got the scoring going early as they scored the first run off of an error by the shortstop in the bottom of the first, and then they scored their second run in the bottom of the second with a sac fly from Camden Taylor to left field. A couple guys to keep an eye on. Gabe Perez for IVC started on the other side of the mound. He sat 83-86 while topping out at 87. The big pitch for him was his slider that sat 73-74. That got plenty of horizontal movement and that got a lot of swings and misses. That pitch was very filthy all game long. He would use it in any count. Very confident with that pitch. He also flashed a changeup that sat 78-80. Struck out 8 batters through 5 1/3 innings while not allowing an earned run. Another guy to keep an eye on was Brendan Coventry, their catcher for IVC. 2025 SWIC commit, went 2 for 3 with a double. Was all over the barrel. Smooth receiver behind the plate with a strong arm. Really liked what I saw from him as well.
Yeah, and then moving over to Friday, Hammett and Def. I know you guys both saw games, and then Saturday as well if you guys want to just roll.
Yeah, I can hop in here. I went over and I caught the Oak Park River Forest and Fenwick crosstown rivalry matchup over at Triton. That game's always a blast. I mean, it just kind of speaks to like how many people go that they have to have it at Triton, because Campbell literally told me that like they can't have it at their schools, like they can't hold that many people. So it was absolutely packed. It was a great atmosphere. Shout out to Coach Campbell. He always takes great care of me and us. Like he blocked off a whole section behind the plate for PBR and for scouts. So that was super clutch. And got there early, caught some BP. So that was really good to see as well. But my MVP for this one, it's got to be Brady Green. He was 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored, a walk, and he actually delivered the walk-off single that sent OPRF home victorious in that one. So the turning point has got to be the walk-off, obviously, but kind of setting it up in the bottom of the 7th, Xavier Martin, he came in. He had a huge double down the line, scored Peter Farron, who walked to lead off the inning, he was hit by a pitch. So that brought it within 1. And then Brady Green came up, and he had a 2 RBI single to walk it off. It was electric. Everyone was going crazy. I mean, that game's always a blast. That's probably got to be a must-see for us each year now, I would think. Just like the atmosphere is always electric. And it's always, I mean, Oak Park River Forest, they're always a team that has, studs running through that school, and it's always great to see Fenwick as well. They got studs rolling through those doors as well. But my prospect spotlight here was Darren Law. He came out of the pen for OPRF, struck out the side, and it was an electric, dynamic look. He was up to 87 with a wipeout slider. It's long levered and it's loose, and he was throwing strikes. Didn't walk anybody. Was all over the zone. It was a really impressive look. He's kind of turning into their closer a little bit. And then James Abaldo for Fenwick. I really, really love the actions on the infield. I mean, it kind of speaks volumes that he took over shortstop as only a sophomore. Like they got Ryan Lazowski, who is their shortstop. He's at third base now, and it's not a knock on Ryan. It's just like that's how good James is, right? Because Ryan's awesome. He's an awesome defender. He's going to be my prospect of the week. But love the actions. It's swaggy. It's got confidence. I love the approach at the plate. He gets good swings off. He's not scared. He's got a slow heartbeat, handles himself really well. And I'd be remiss to not mention Josh Morgan. Just one of the top players in the state. We got him at number 15 in Illinois right now. Also one of the top football players. He's a DB wide receiver. He's got 3 pretty big football offers. I know, Tyler, I don't know if you knew this. He's got one at Penn State. So that speaks volumes.
You just want to fire me up real quick. That's all you're trying to do. I mean, you just made my day.
Yeah, I didn't know if you knew that or not, but
it
speaks volumes. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Like, he's legit on the football field and on the baseball field. I mean, really, really looks the part. He's put on noticeable strength to his frame already. In a good way. Like, he's still lean. He's a defensive back, wide receiver. He's got to stay trim and athletic. So, but he's put on good strength. Really, really looks the part in the outfield. Moves around really well. Covers ground. I mean, just typical, like, you can just tell the dude's a wide receiver. Like, just the long strides. Like, covers all sorts of ground. And he's got like a ton of raw strength and twitch and that swing as well. He hit a home run to left field. It was a no doubter in a big moment in the game. So it was awesome. It was an awesome game. I'm still fired up about it. But let's move on to you, Duff. I saw you got a little rivalry matchup as well, huh? St. Charles.
Yeah, Friday night was kind of like, I felt like that was a common theme, was just rivalries. Obviously, you had OPRF Fenwick. We actually had another one of our area scouts out to see Batavia versus Geneva. But yeah, I had St. Charles East versus St. Charles North. It was actually at the Kane County Cougars Stadium, which my first time being over there, what a beautiful ballpark. I can remember Kane County used to be in the Midwest League with actually my hometown Dayton Dragons back in Ohio, and I can remember watching the Dragons play Kane County. Now they're an independent league team, and I mean, what a stadium, what a venue for an indie, just for indie ball in general. But yeah, big time rivalry matchup. It was a true pitcher's duel, like right from the first pitch, which it was kind of built that way, right? For St. Charles East, Joey Aaron was going, who's a 2025 going to Xavier. And then for St. Charles North, it was Keaton Reinke, who's one of the top uncommitted 2026 arms in the entire state. So, big time pitchers matchup. Joey Aaron is actually going to be my MVP for this game. He was running his fastball 86 to 89, was really commanding a 74 to 76 mile an hour slider arm side. Like, could really backdoor it against those righties, front door it against lefties. But his final line ended up being 5 2/3, 2 hits, 3 walks, 2 runs. Only one of those was earned, and then he punched out 8. So he's my MVP for this one. Turning point was it was 0-0 going to the 6th. Like I said, both pitchers were really just kind of matching each other pitch for pitch. But for St. Charles East, James Fiegelson, who's an uncommitted 2026 and is actually going to be my uncommitted prospect of the week. So, stay tuned. I'll touch more on him later. But he got the scoring started with an RBI single in the top of the 6th, which actually brought home 2 runs. There was an error on the play as well. So really from there, once that scoring started, I felt like it just kind of broke the tension in the game. And, obviously East didn't look back from there. But St. Charles North actually brought the winning run to the plate in the bottom of the 7th. It ended up, obviously finishing 3-2 with East winning. But, North brought the winning run to the plate, bottom of the 7th. But East held on to win. Prospect highlight, Keaton Reinke. I mean, he just continues to stand out. That was my second time seeing him this spring. Big time football player. Like, common theme there, Hammond. I know you saw Josh Morgan, who's a big time football player. Keaton's just as talented in his own right on the gridiron, it seems. But the frame really stands out. Like, looks like a wide receiver on the mound in the best way possible. But he was running his fastball 87 to 89, touched 90, held that velo throughout his outing, which to me is really impressive. Had all sorts of command for a curveball. Like, command isn't a word I really throw around a ton, but he definitely had it with his curveball. Like, could throw it for strikes, had a ton of confidence in it, which, when I saw him earlier in the spring, granted it's early, right? You're not going to be as polished right from the get-go most of the time, and felt like that pitch has come a long way just in probably the month and a half since I last saw him, but thought he threw the ball really well. The stat sheet's not going to do him any favors. Just, he was on the wrong side of a pitcher's duel, but thought he was really gutsy. Made a ton of big pitches at times. Dylan McCabe, 2027 out of St. Charles East. All sorts of athleticism for a first baseman. Looks to me like he could easily play outfield for the Saints. Now, they probably just don't need him to right now. It's really impressive, like, watching him pregame, the confidence in which he picks stuff. Like, I feel like that's rare for high schoolers, right? Like, could be kind of hit or miss with first baseman defensively, but, like, he's got to be up there for probably one of the best, like, defensive first basemen in the entire state, even as a 2027. That's how impressive it is. You watch him bouncing around, just so athletic and very natural over there. watch him throw across, in IO, they're throwing first baseman throw to third, and like really good arm. Like we know he can pitch as well for St. Charles East. So really like Dylan, left-handed hitter, really looks the part in the box. Very hitterish actions up there. So really like Dylan. So yeah, that's what I got from Friday. Hammond, I can toss it back over to you for what you had Saturday. I know you had a really good game.
Yeah, I caught a little CCL Blue action. Pravi and Mount Carmel, number 13 Pravi. They won that one, 8-5. My MVP, I'm going to go with Nathan O'Donnell, a senior, going to Minnesota. He got the start on the mound, and he swung it all game as well. He had 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts. The fastball was up to 92, and I thought it was coming out really good. Slider looked really good as well for swing and miss, and throwing a little changeup in there too, around 80 miles an hour. But he also hit a home run in the game to help his own cause. So kind of doing a little bit of everything. I know he's the CCL Blue reigning player of the year, so no surprise there seeing him do that. But turning point in this one, Pravi, they gave up 4 runs. They were up 6-0. They gave up 4 runs, so it was getting a little hairy. Then Declan Kane came in. He hit a 2-run home run to give them a little bit of breathing room in the top of the 7th inning, which would ultimately pay dividends as, Mount Carmel would come in the bottom half of the inning. And they were trying to chip away. Anthony Chavez hit a home run, made it 8-5. So it's always nice to have that little breathing room. I thought that was kind of the main turning point in that game because it was getting a little sketchy in the last bottom half of that inning to end the game there. But my prospect spotlight, I'm going to go with Connor Ellentenney. One of my prospect spotlights, I should say. But Connor Ellentenney, Notre Dame commit. He's a junior, future game standout. Really love the frame on that kid. Like, looks the part. It's 6'3" with all sorts of upside still left. Really in on the way it moves. A little cleaner than I remember it being. And then he was throwing strikes. It was maybe a little bit effectively wild, but like it was very competitive. It was around the zone. It was up to 90 miles an hour. The slider was really good as well. I just love the upside. I could see that kid throwing 100 someday, and I'm not even lying. Like, just the way it moves in the frame. Big fan of him. And then Enzo Infelice. He was hitting leadoff. He was catching. He's got some of the stupidest arm strength in the state. Just like pure arm strength. Just the way it comes out of the hand going to second base. Like, he was throwing from his knees with ease. Then he came on the mound and was up to 92, sitting 90-92, closing it out with a good breaking ball. So, like we mentioned earlier, the bat to ball with that kid, it's premium, and he's got a ton of strength in the bat as well, a ton of power. Just the fluidity and the confidence he has, that kid, he's easily one of the top bats in the Midwest, and there were some pro guys there. So, you never know what's going to happen there, but he's clearly catching the eyes of the right people.
Yeah, that's great stuff. All sorts of talent, especially when you go see a CCL Blue matchup like that. But I know we kind of touched on this earlier. The ESCC is no more, but after this year. But I actually got to see an ESCC doubleheader Saturday. Went over to Bennett Academy and watched them. They swept Carmel Catholic. With it being a doubleheader, I'm kind of going to treat these 2 games just a little different. I think I'm just going to focus more on prospects I want to touch on. But real quick, in the first game, Bennett walked off Carmel Catholic 6-5, and how they do it, they actually flip who's home and away in the second game. So Carmel Catholic ended up being the home team, even though it's an away game for them in that second game. But Bennett ended up winning the second game 8-3. In the first game, Quinn Rooney hit a walk-off sacrifice fly. He's an uncommitted 2027 left-handed hitter. I know we really like him on the mound as well. Another guy that I want to say that was the Lockport preseason ID, where he showed really well for us. But physical left-handed hitter. Thought he was on the barrel multiple times, and just really liked the look in the box. Luke Wild, a 2025 out of Bennett, going to St. John's River College. Very physical looking left-handed hitter. He showed us some tools in the past as well. I want to say that was the Chicago Summer ID he was at last summer. Put up a bunch of really good numbers at that event, and really showed well. Absolutely juiced a 3-run homer game 2, which really propelled Bennett to just kind of coast for the rest of that second game. Merrick Sullivan, 2025 out of Bennett. He's going to Ithaca, so shout out to my D3 king there. But leadoff hitter for Bennett, on base machine. I want to say he had like 3 hits the second game, and maybe 1 or 2 in the first game. But right-handed hitter, had some real feel to hit. And then couple arms I want to touch on here. For Bennett, Tristan Lakis, 2025 going to Webster. Started the second game, threw really well. Had a shot to go for the complete game. They sent him back out there in the 7th, but ended up finished with 6 1/3, but threw the ball really well. Low 80s arm, was touching 85 for us. But thought he mixed stuff up well, threw the ball really well for Bennett. And then Emerson Larson, he actually started game 1 for Carmel Catholic. He's an uncommitted 2026. Schools need to go see, but very physically imposing frame. Thought he threw the ball really well. It was a pretty gutsy performance. Had to work through some trouble on the base paths, but thought he handled himself well on the mound. He was 85 to 87, touching 88 for us, and he held that velo throughout the game. So, it's a type of frame that can handle that type of velocity and hold it throughout his outing. Thought he battled, was throwing in a changeup, mixing a short little breaking ball sparingly, but a guy I was impressed with. I know he's been having a heck of a year for Carmel Catholic over there, so that's what I got there. I know the CSCC is going to transition to not being a thing, but Carmel Catholic's a pretty young squad and a team I think we're going to have to pay attention to for the coming years.
And Tyler, just to hop in here, because I know you were trying to figure out where Quinn Rooney went this winter, where we saw him, and it was the preseason All-State underclass is kind of where he came out, and he was up to 87, and then obviously with those levers and everything, it's really, really interesting, but just wanted to get that correct because I would want it the same way if it were me saying it.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it.
All right, and then I went to a doubleheader as well on Saturday in Normal. I watched Normal Community host Moline. In the first game, I got to see Normal Community win 3-0. Gavin Schwartz threw complete game shutout, while striking out 12 batters and only allowing 4 hits. He sat 89-91 with arm side run. Slider sat 77-79 with sharp action, and he mixed in a changeup that sat 82-83 in the later at bats. Very dominant stuff. Really like what I was seeing from him. The turning point in this game was Drew Stevens driving in the first run of the game with an RBI single in the bottom of the 3rd. And then in the bottom of the 5th, Max Heineman drove in the second run of the game with an RBI single of his own. And then Stevens followed up with an RBI double, which would make it 3-0 for his second run of the game. And the second game was not another shutout. It was a 12-5 win for Normal Community. The MVPs of this game, I couldn't decide between Max Heineman, who was Illinois Chicago commit 2026, and Drew Stevens, who was a Valparaiso 2026 commit. Heineman went 4 for 5 with 2 doubles, a triple, 3 RBIs, and 3 runs. And then Stevens went 2 for 4 with a home run, 4 RBIs, and a run. This is their 3-4 hitters, and they were just smashing in both games. The turning point in this game was a 5-run bottom of the 2nd that Normal Community had that would put them up for the remainder of the game. A pass ball put the Ironman in the lead, and then Max Heineman followed up with a 2-run double into left field. Stevens would drive in his first run of the game with a grounder to shortstop, and then Gavin Michaels, Cincinnati commit 2026, drilled a line drive over the shortstop's head for an RBI single. 5 runs in that inning, put them up for good. Really liked what we were seeing there from their 3 through 5 hitters, Heineman, Stevens, and Cincinnati, and Michaels. These were all 2026 commits already. Just dominant stuff. Heineman and Stevens are their catching duo, and that might be the best catching duo in the state. One catches, the other plays first, and they flip every other game. So some really good stuff from both of them. A couple prospects I'd like to highlight is Nolan Dunsey from Moline, catcher/first baseman. Very similar. He caught in the first game, played first in the second game. He went 2 for 3 with 2 doubles while driving in 2 runs in the second game of the doubleheader. Showed quality bat-to-ball abilities with a gap-to-gap approach, leader behind the plate. Another guy to keep an eye on is 2027 Lucas Beatty from Normal Community. Struck out 4 batters through 4 innings in the second game of the doubleheader while allowing only 1 run. Sat low 80s with a low 70s breaking ball. He went 1 for 3 at the plate in the first game while starting at third. He's just an athletic mover that I think we need to keep an eye on as we go forward.
All right, guys, let's round this out with prospect of the week. So I will get in here with my guy. It is right-handed pitcher Trevor Ames from St. Joe Ogden. He is a 2026, 6'2", 177-pound frame. He's an athlete, free and easy mover. It's loose. There's minimal effort. It's a long, loose, and clean arm action. His fastball is up to 86. Sat mostly low 80s. Showed a curveball at 65 to 69 miles an hour with 11.5 shape, and then a changeup with fade at 77 to 79. But honestly, I just love the upside of Ames and the movement patterns, the athleticism. I think there's so much more untapped potential still to come. He's got room for added strength still to come. And just, again, the way that he moves, the velo's at 86, 86 now. I think there's a lot more to come. So Trevor Ames, uncommitted, 2026 from St. Joe Ogden.
I can hop in here. I got two because they kind of go together, I feel like. Two left-handed hitters from Fenwick that I saw. Ryan Lazewski, like I mentioned, and then Andrew Henderson. Lazewski was playing third base. He can play up the middle. We've seen him up the middle. He's athletic, and it's an athletic left-handed swing. I mean, he can definitely stick on the infield at the next level. And he's, like I said, just an athlete, surefire college caliber. And same with Andrew Henderson. He was playing first base for him. He's a bigger kid. He's like 6'2", 180, 190 maybe. There's still some projection in there. And Lazewski is extremely projectable as well. He's really lean with a ton of room to add on. But Henderson, hitting in the middle of that lineup. It's like a longer swing through the zone with the extension, but he can, it's flat. He can hit. I've long liked it. I liked him a lot last year as well. Just his rounds of BP, because I was at the Fenwick OPRF game last year. And like I mentioned, they take BP. So he was one that stood out this year and last year. Just really in on the operation. I'm really surprised that they're both uncommitted, but they're two surefire college caliber guys that need to be got on quickly.
Yeah, and then I can hop in here. Kind of teased this earlier, but my prospect of the week is going to be James Fiegelson, shortstop out of St. Charles East, uncommitted 2026. As much as, I thought Dylan McCabe really stood out pregame, Fiegelson did just as much, if not more. Playing shortstop, to me, it's how it's supposed to look when you go watch a high school shortstop, especially a higher caliber one. The actions really stand out to you when you go watch him play. Moves around the infield like a guy, and the arm, I think is really, really strong for the position. Like he reached 93 miles an hour for us at the preseason All-State earlier this winter. And shows that in game too. Now, I don't know if it's 93 across the diamond, but it's strong and accurate, and it plays that way in game. All sorts of confidence in his hands. Like, they're playing off a natural surface over there. When I went and saw him, he's not getting balls off turf where, it's easier, but really just thought he looked apart. Offensively, it's a right-handed hitter. Felt like he's got some twitch in the swing, pretty athletic, so I was a big fan of James. It was my first time ever seeing him really, especially intimately in that sort of setting. So just a guy we're going to have to continue to watch over there for the Saints.
Well, he was a name I liked coming out of the winter, so that's what it's all about, to see them even showing better in game or just as well. I know we went with a lot of 2026s here, and rightfully so. Like, that's kind of the next class that needs to be watched, really hard by these colleges. But we also just updated the 2028 rankings here in Illinois, and going through that process, there's a lot of names that get brought to the forefront. I'm going with one that just missed the top 10, but was certainly a guy we talked about, a guy that we are going to key in on and make sure we see plenty in-game looks at him moving forward. Isaiah Wolter. He's a catcher, right-handed pitcher out of Oswego East, 2028, so just a freshman. We don't have a ton of in-game looks on him. I don't know if I've seen any in-game at-bats. And that is a reason why, right now, just this one of these first updates, like, he just missed the list. But he will surely be a name to know moving forward. He's 5'10", 173 pounds, and he's got loud tools for a freshman. He came to our preseason All-State. He was 80 from the crouch. He had a low pop, a 191. He's also got some physicality, like in the box. He had a max EV of 98 miles an hour. While running a 6.95, which that number in general for a freshman to see a 6.95 runner is very rare. I would say that's top of the class run. But then for him also to be a catcher just speaks to kind of his high level of athleticism for his age. And then he gets on the mound and he's got a fastball up to 87 with stuff. So there's all kinds of just boxes being checked by Isaiah Walter. There's tools for days, and he is a guy that should be talked about moving forward plenty.
All right, well, that will wrap up episode 26 of the Bullpen. One thing I wanted to mention, I should have said it at the beginning, was happy Cinco de Mayo to those that celebrate. Today is Monday, May 5th, so happy Cinco de Mayo.
In the past, like being sunny and 80 degrees.
Yeah.
So maybe it is down where you're at, Gavin, in Bloomington. Maybe it's a little different. Maybe down
really
in Southern Illinois, Carbondale, it's 80 and sunny, and they're getting a great Cinco de Mayo, but doesn't really feel like a traditional Cinco de Mayo up here in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
But always a fun day.
Yep. And then also May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so I just wanted to kind of shout that out. I'm no expert personally, but just call your close friends, call your people. It's important. So if you need help, just talk to somebody, reach out. But I just wanted to mention that. So do you guys have anything else?
That's an awesome shout out, Gav, especially in today's day and age and social media coming off COVID a few years later. There's a lot of people out there that need that need help, that maybe don't realize they're not in this thing alone. And my wife being a social worker, I know that hits home, for me as well. So get help, talk to somebody. There's plenty of people out there. Don't be afraid. You're not alone. There are far too many people struggling with mental health issues.
Totally. But that will wrap up episode 26. Appreciate you guys listening. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Apple and Spotify podcasts. Appreciate you listening, and we will see you next time.